Welcome back everyone, I hope you're all well. This video is part of an Aussie YouTube Hop that I'm participating in, and hopefully it'll be the first of many. In my description I will link to Chrissy's video, who's the person on after me, so please go and check out her video and show her some love. Now our theme for this hop was, we had a choice I should say, of spring or Halloween, and I chose spring. I must add that this hop is sponsored by Aunty Vera Scraps, and to win the wonderful prize, all you have to do is comment on all the videos that are participating in the hop and leave a comment to all the videos. Well, I think I said that, didn't I? Anyway, you know what to do. I will also link Aunty Vera's Facebook page as well as her shop page. Now that all the formalities are out of the way, I just started by getting out my circle cutter. It's a really old one. I think it's from EK Success, but don't quote me on that because I've got no idea. It's really old. That's all I know. And all I knew was that I wanted these photos in some kind of circle because to me it was symbolising the circle of life. I adhered the photos onto some cardstock, and it was sort of like a light green colour. It's really hard to tell on this video, and my lighting's not the best in my scrapbook, and I always scrap at night because our days are pretty full, as you can imagine. I settled on this paper from Craft. It's from the Hello Sunshine collection, and that's going to be my background paper. So as not to waste paper, I'm going to use the cardstock, the lime green cardstock, as a border on this layout. And of course, I'm just using some distress inks in Vintage Photo to ink around all the edges of my circle as well as the edges of my background paper, just for a bit of conformity. With this layout, I'm pretty proud of myself. I used quite a few of my stamps, and I made a lot of my own embellishments. I'm going to be using 3 separate stamp collections to make one embellishment. Now the first stamp I use is new, and it's from one of the, you know when you buy a magazine they give you some stamp sets, it's from that. And the next one is a Craft stamp, and it's called Life Sentiments. And I only use part of the word, just the life of one of their phrases or one of their sentiments. Then I use a black and gold stamp from the Friends collection, and that's to give me the border that I have. So 3 stamp collections to make one embellishment. And I also use some archival ink, Ranger's archival ink in sepia and coffee. The other stamp I use from the Craft Life Sentiments, it reads, "Remember that something incredibly wonderful is always possible." I'm going to be inking all 4 sides of my new sentiment, and then I'll be mounting it on some burlap, just like I did with the new life tag that I've got at the top there. I know that this is a spring layout and the colours I'm using are not very spring-like, but that is because where I live in New South Wales, we are experiencing a little bit of a drought. We have not had any rain for 2 to 3 months, and everything is really dry. Hence why I'm using a lot of creams and browns, because that's what I see every day when I walk out onto our paddocks and everything. It's really brown. Spring to me symbolises new life. It's September, October, where most of our sheep start to have little lambs, and every time I think of spring, that's what comes to my mind is, oh, it's time to keep an eye on our sheep and see who's pregnant, and just keeping an eye on the herd. Normally, we let Mother Nature take its course and our sheep don't need our help. But this little sheep did. On the Sunday, she had a little lamb and everything was fine. But then we noticed 4 days later, on a Thursday, that she was in distress. And upon closer inspection, we realised she was still heavily pregnant. So we were preparing ourselves for the birth of the stillborn. But instead, to our surprise, and we're also very thankful, she had a little lamb that was very much still alive. So I'm happy to report that Mum and her 2 little lambs are doing really, really well, and they're as healthy as can be. Back to to the layout. You would have seen that I used my Amy Tangerine template to do some piercing so that I could do some hand stitching, and I think I saved you the boredom of watching that. And then what I did was I got some of my burlap and I used my burlap to go all around the circle. I've now decided that I had to do the packaging technique. So I'm using my distress sprays and the colour is Shabby Shutters. I'm then going to do some more of the packaging technique, but this time using some bubble wrap, and the colour I will be using is Vintage Photo. With my bubble wrap technique, I will also be using some Heidi Swap in the colour Rose. And once I finish with the packaging technique, I will adhere this whole circle down using some double-sided tape. I knew that the title was going to be Spring, and I couldn't find any letters in my stash that worked with this layout, so I found these ugly green ones, and I'm just giving them a light sanding so that I can adhere whatever medium I choose to put on them. I decided to use my Liquitex medium gel, and I am just putting some glue to the letters and then sprinkling it with some glitter. Of course, I then decide that these letters are too glittery and too in your face, so I decide to tone them down using some Tim Holtz Distress Collage Medium in Vintage. And I really like how these turn out in the end. I'll just be doing some more stamping using the little lamb stamp that I got in a magazine package. You know, where you buy the magazine and they give you the free stamps. So anyway, stamped it 3 times using archival ink, and then I also stamped the grass and fussy cut all that out. Off screen, I also glued down the spring title, and the little lambs I mounted on some foam tape, on some foam and stuck it all down. I'm going to be using my Heidi Swap Shine in the colour Rose to colour in my little chipboard, no they're not chipboard, little wooden butterflies. And I just used 3 on the layout at the top because I needed to add a bit of pink. Now for anyone interested, the lamb did have a little ram and a little ewe. So in cheap talk or in human talk, that is a little boy and a little girl. I made my own little tag using some scrap paper and then did some journaling and I also stamped the date, which was Thursday the 28th of September 2017 when this little miracle occurred. I'm just going to glue down my little butterflies. And as I'm doing this, I just realised that you can actually see that as I'm scrapbooking, I'm also catching up on my Netflix. So for anyone interested, I was watching the Australian drama called Offspring. Now, isn't that appropriate? And that was totally all by accident. Now, here are some close-ups, and thank you all for watching. Until my next video, I hope you're all well